You want to know why men aren't approaching women anymore? It's not because men suddenly became weak, scared, or unmasculine. It's because a lot of men finally did something very dangerous. They started thinking, not emotionally, logically. They stopped looking at approaching women as some romantic adventure and started looking at it like what it actually is in 2025: a high risk move with low reward in a hostile environment where one bad moment can follow you for years. Once you see it that way, the question isn't, why aren't men approaching women anymore? The real question is, why would they? Let's walk through this step by step. 1. The new cost benefit calculation. For most of history, approaching a woman was simple. You saw her, you liked her, you walked up, said something, she said yes or no. End of story. Worst case, your ego hurt for an hour. Best case, date, relationship, maybe a family. Today, the cost structure is completely different. Now, when a man even thinks about saying hello, his brain runs a quiet calculation. Could she overreact loudly and humiliate me? Could her friends join in and clown me in front of everyone? Could someone record this? Could that clip end up on TikTok with a caption like, "Look at this creep who wouldn't leave me alone"? That's not overthinking. That's self protection. Because the truth is, rejection doesn't just hurt now, it can be performed, amplified, shared. A simple no thanks used to be normal. Now, for a lot of guys, it turns into a mini theater performance. She pulls a face, raises her voice, makes sure everyone hears, tells the story later. Can you believe what this guy said to me? And you? You're not a person. You're content. So men adapt. After a few of those performative rejections, a switch flips inside a man. This is not worth the humiliation. And step by step, without a speech, without a movement, without a protest, men just silently stop approaching. Not because they're scared of women, because they're tired of paying a heavy emotional price for a simple hello. 2. The smartphone court, public trial in 30 seconds. If public embarrassment were the only risk, some men would still play. But there's a new layer now, the phone. One small rectangle that can turn a 10-second interaction into a permanent judge, jury, and executioner. Here's how it plays out. You see a woman. You approach respectfully. You're not weird. You're not aggressive. You're not touching her. Maybe she's not interested. Fair enough. But instead of just declining, she lifts her phone and hits record. Now context is gone. Only optics remain. A 6-second clip. You standing, she looking uncomfortable. No audio, no nuance, no truth. Caption: guys, stop doing this. Or, this man made me so uncomfortable. And that's it. Strangers who weren't there will judge your entire character. People who don't know you will decide who you are. Friends, co-workers, even your boss might see it. Maybe HR calls you in. Maybe clients back away. Maybe people treat you differently. Not because of what actually happened, but because of how it looked in a 6-second video designed for outrage. The modern man knows that. He's seen these clips. He's watched random guys get dragged online for nothing more than being awkward, unattractive, or unlucky. So when he considers approaching now, the equation is brutal. Is this 10-second interaction worth losing my reputation, job, or peace over if she decides to perform a victim role online? Most men look at that and quietly decide, no, it isn't. Approaching stopped being a social risk. It became a career risk. And once it crosses that line, the just be confident and say hi advice dies instantly. 3. The numbers don't add up anymore. There's another side to this that men rarely talk about publicly: the numbers. Even if we ignore humiliation, phones, and social risk, What does a man actually get out of approaching today? For many average men, it feels like this: dozens of approaches, mostly cold or hostile rejections, occasionally a conversation, rarely a real date, very rarely a quality connection. And even if he gets a date, he finds out she's half invested. She's messaging 5, 10 other guys. She's scrolling dating apps the same night. She goes home and posts, "No good men left." He risks embarrassment, rejection, and maybe public shaming for a tiny chance at a date with someone who might not even take him seriously. You don't need a degree in economics to see the problem. High effort, high risk, low reward. That's not romance. That's a bad investment. Women often say, just shoot your shot. The worst she can say is no. That used to be true. Now the worst she can say is nothing, while recording you, then turning you into content. So men look at the numbers, look at their mental health, look at their future, and think, why am I fighting for access to people who clearly don't want to be approached in the first place? And slowly, the logical conclusion forms: I'd rather focus on my life than play a game that's rigged against me. 4. The Me Too shadow. When nuance disappears, let's be clear, the Me Too movement exposed real predators, real abuse, real power imbalances that needed to be confronted. No sane man defends that. But at the cultural level, something else happened in the background. Nuance died. In the public narrative, everything started to blur. Awkward became aggressive. Misread became predatory. Unwanted became unsafe. Imperfect men and evil men got lumped together under the same label. Men watched careers destroyed not just for truly abusive behavior, but sometimes for a misjudged compliment, a clumsy pass, an interaction retold years later with a different emotional filter. And men understood the message. You are guilty by default. Your intentions don't matter. Her perception is the only thing that counts. So now, when a man considers approaching, his thoughts aren't, will she say yes? It's, if she feels uncomfortable later and tells this story differently, what happens to me? Not just socially, but legally, professionally, publicly. Men learn something. You can do nothing illegal, nothing hateful, nothing aggressive, and still have your life destroyed if the story is told the right way to the right audience. So what do rational men do in high-risk systems with unclear rules? They opt out. They stay silent at the gym. They avoid conversation at work. They don't speak to women on trains, streets, or in elevators, not because they hate women, because they love survival. 5. The no-win double standard. Here's where it becomes truly insane. Society tells men, be confident, take the lead. Women like men who make the first move. At the same time, don't make women uncomfortable. Don't approach in public. Don't talk to women at the gym, on the street, at work, on the train. So where exactly is this magical, acceptable place where men are allowed to show interest? No one can answer that without contradicting themselves. Worse, the rules are different for each woman. If she finds you attractive, you're confident. If she doesn't, you're creepy. Same man, same words, same behavior. Different reaction based only on her subjective attraction. That's not a standard. That's a trap. It creates this double bind. If you wait for 100% clear signs before making a move, you're spineless. If you act without clear signs, you're invading her space. If she's into you, your approach is romantic. If she's not, your approach is harassment. So men wake up to this reality. I am responsible for how she feels, even if I'm respectful, calm, and normal. I can do everything right and still be framed as wrong. That's not a game you can win with more confidence. That's a game you win by not playing. 6. The looks lottery. When genetics decide the verdict. Here's the harshest part most guys eventually realize. In the real world, approaching isn't judged by how respectful you are. It's judged by your face, your height, your body, your overall vibe. Things you can only improve so far. Two men say the exact same thing. Hey, I saw you and thought you looked interesting. I wanted to say hi. Man A, tall, handsome, gym built, dressed well. Man B, average looking, short, maybe a bit awkward. Same line, same tone. From man A, she hears confident, bold, attractive. From man B, she hears creepy, weird. Why is he talking to me? He didn't fail the sentence, he failed her filter. She can't say, I didn't like his face. So she says, he was inappropriate. He made me uncomfortable. He was too forward. Those phrases are socially acceptable ways to say, I didn't like the man, so his behavior must be wrong. And men eventually see the pattern. If you're in her type, you can say almost anything and be forgiven. If you're not, even your best attempt can be treated like a violation. So average men look at this and think, I cannot outbehave my genetics. I can't work my way out of a face she doesn't like. That's not self-pity. That's clear observation. When a system is based on looks first, behavior second, the men who aren't at the top of the looks hierarchy realize that approaching in public is like voluntarily walking into a biased courtroom, so they stop appearing in court. 7. The hyperinflated marketplace. Now add this, social media and dating apps have completely distorted women's sense of how many options they have. A woman who, 20 years ago, might have had 1 to 3 men interested in her in real life, now gets dozens of DMs, hundreds of likes, constant attention from men worldwide every single day. Does she want most of these men? No, but the volume of attention changes how she sees herself. Average women start thinking in top 10% terms. I deserve a man who earns this much, looks like this, has this lifestyle, and still worships me. Meanwhile, the average man gets almost no matches on dating apps, almost no inbound interest, almost no compliments, and gets told in real life he's creepy if he approaches wrong. So what is he supposed to think? If I don't approach, nothing happens. If I do approach, I'm competing with the entire internet and risking humiliation on top of it. It's not a participation problem. It's supply and demand. Women live in an attention surplus. Men live in an attention drought. The group in surplus can afford to be cruel, picky, dismissive. The group in scarcity eventually checks out. 8. Psychological burnout, approach fatigue. After years of this, men hit something that isn't talked about enough. Approach fatigue. It's not the nervousness of the 18-year-old who's never spoken to a girl. It's the tiredness of the 30-year-old who has tried to be respectful, tried to be confident, tried to be brave, tried to just shoot a shot, and got public mockery. Oh, no. Why are you talking to me? Side-eye from her friends. Zero benefit from the times it did work. He's not scared anymore. He's done. He has learned through pain that his effort doesn't matter. His intentions don't matter. His respect doesn't matter. So he reclaims the only thing he can. My time, my energy, my dignity are more important than playing this game. He doesn't hold a press conference. He doesn't rant to everyone. He just quietly starts living differently. He stops approaching strangers, stops using dating apps. Seriously, stops chasing opportunities, stops trying to prove he's one of the good guys, and starts focusing on the one person who actually responds to his effort, himself. 9. What men are choosing instead. Here's the part most people don't see. When men stop approaching, they don't just sit in a dark room, sad and alone. They redirect that energy, the time and emotional bandwidth they used to spend, thinking of what to say, building up courage, recovering from rejections. Doubting themselves gets reinvested into work and business, fitness and health, hobbies and skills, travel and new experiences, friendships and brotherhood, inner peace and self respect. And something interesting happens. Their anxiety drops, their stress drops, the constant feeling of being judged drops. They start sleeping better, thinking clearer, feeling calmer, and they realize my life feels better when I'm not constantly chasing approval from people who treat me like I'm a problem for even approaching. That peace is addictive. Once a man tastes it, you can't shame him back into chaos. You can't guilt him with real men approach. You're scared of rejection. Men today are weak. He knows that's manipulation. He remembers how he felt when he was playing the game. He compares it to how he feels now, and the comparison is brutal. Chaos versus his peace. Humiliation versus dignity. Low odds versus guaranteed self-respect. He chooses peace every time. 10. But what about the good women? Here's a nuance that matters. There are women who are kind, who don't humiliate men, who are open to being approached respectfully, who are tired of the same broken system. Men know that too. But here's the problem. You can't tell who's who at first glance. And the risk is so high now that most men simply don't want to roll the dice. It's not. All women are bad. It's the environment is unstable. The rules are unclear. The penalties are massive. And I have better things to do than gamble my peace on strangers. So even if there are good women out there, many of them will never be approached by the men they'd actually want. Not because those men are weak, but because those men are done risking it. That's the quiet tragedy nobody wants to admit. 11. The harsh final truth. Men didn't fail. They adapted. People look at men not approaching and say, men have gotten soft. Where did all the confident men go? Why are men so scared of women now? Wrong question. They're not scared. They're informed. They watched other men get humiliated, watched normal guys get recorded and posted, watched accusations ruin lives, watched effort be met with contempt, watched average men be treated as invisible unless they're 6'2", with a perfect jawline and a 7-figure job. And they drew a conclusion. I am not obligated to set myself on fire to keep a broken system warm. Men didn't retreat because they failed at the game. They retreated because they finally realized the game is rigged. The referee is biased. The crowd is hostile. And the prize isn't worth the injuries. So they walked off the field, not with rage, with clarity. 12. What this means for you as a man. If you're a man watching this, here's the point. You are not crazy for feeling the way you do. You're not weak for not wanting to approach strangers in a world where one wrong move can be replayed 1,000,000 times online. You're not broken because you're tired of being treated like a threat for existing. You're awake. So what do you do with that awareness? You. Stop basing your worth on how many women you talk to. Stop letting society shame you for protecting yourself. Stop wasting energy chasing people who live in an attention bubble. Start investing in your body, your money, your mind, your peace. Build a life so solid that you don't need random female approval to feel like a man. And if, along that path, you meet a woman who respects you, treats you well, and doesn't weaponize her feelings against you, good. Approach her, talk to her, see where it goes. Not from desperation, not from fear of being alone, but from choice, from strength. 13. The quiet revolution. The real story isn't men are failing women. The real story is men are finally done sacrificing their mental health to participate in a system that punishes them for trying. They are choosing peace over chaos, self respect over humiliation, reality over fantasy, building themselves over chasing strangers. That's not cowardice, that's evolution. A man who stands alone today, calm, focused, and unapologetic about protecting his sanity, is not weak. He's one of the few people who actually understands what's going on. And once you see the world this clearly, you can't go back to being the guy forcing himself to approach just to prove he's brave. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to protect your time, your mind, and your future. Because at the end of the day, approaching random women doesn't define your masculinity. How you live, what you build, and what you refuse to tolerate, that's what defines you.